For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On a blustery spring morning in 2006, 9-year-old Piper Lang was visiting the iconic Bodie Island Lighthouse in the Outer Banks, NC, with her family. She briefly wandered from their side near a marsh overlook and never returned. Despite an immediate and extensive investigation involving multiple agencies, Piper Lang vanished without a trace, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a growing sense of dread. For 12 agonizing years, her family lived with unbearable uncertainty, enduring a profound silence that echoed through every missed milestone and faded memory. Then, in 2018, a startling discovery was made. A child's sand-caked sneaker, recovered from beneath a weathered catwalk plank, offering a chilling glimmer of hope and a potential path to the truth. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Piper Lang and the long road to finding her. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. Piper Lang, a vibrant 9-year-old fourth grader, embodied the carefree spirit of summer vacations. Her world in the spring of 2006 revolved around school, friends, and the anticipation of family trips. That year, the Lang family chose the Outer Banks of North Carolina, a stretch of barrier islands renowned for its windswept beaches, historic lighthouses, and tranquil marshlands. Among these iconic structures stood the Bodie Island Lighthouse. Its distinctive black and white stripes a familiar beacon against the vast Atlantic sky. A wooden boardwalk snaked around its base, leading visitors through maritime forests and past a serene marsh overlook, offering panoramic views of the delicate coastal ecosystem. It was here, on a seemingly ordinary afternoon, that Piper Lang was last seen. The day had begun like any other vacation day, filled with the promise of exploration and discovery. Piper, captivated by the unique flora and fauna of the marsh, had momentarily strayed ahead of her family on the boardwalk, drawn by a particularly vibrant bird or perhaps the rustle of reeds in the gentle breeze. Her parents, accustomed to her inquisitive nature, had allowed her a few extra steps of independence, always keeping her within sight. But as the afternoon waned, a chilling realization began to set in. A casual glance turned into a concerned search, then a frantic scanning of the boardwalk and the surrounding marshland. Piper was no longer visible. The initial calls of her name, light and hopeful, quickly escalated into desperate shouts that echoed across the quiet landscape. The family's disbelief gave way to a cold, creeping panic. Every corner of the boardwalk was checked, every shadow scrutinized, every familiar face among the dwindling visitors questioned. The marsh overlook, moments before a point of scenic beauty, now seemed to swallow the very air, offering no answers, only a gaping void. As the sun dipped lower, casting long, unsettling shadows, the stark reality of the situation became undeniable. Piper Lang, a child full of life and laughter, had vanished without a trace from the Bodie Island Lighthouse boardwalk. The immediate aftermath was a blur of frantic phone calls, the arrival of first responders, and the dawning horror that a family's vacation had transformed into an unimaginable nightmare. The picturesque Outer Banks had become the backdrop for a profound and inexplicable loss. The alarm of Piper Lang's disappearance rapidly triggered a full-scale emergency response across the Outer Banks. Within minutes of the frantic 911 call, local law enforcement, including deputies from the Dare County Sheriff's Office, converged on the Bodie Island Lighthouse. They were swiftly joined by search and rescue teams, volunteer fire departments, and the U.S. Coast Guard, whose presence underscored the unique challenges of the coastal environment. The immediate search radius focused intensely on the boardwalk where Piper was last seen, extending into the dense maritime forest bordering the path and the expansive, often deceptive, marshlands. Helicopters scanned from above, their spotlights cutting through the encroaching dusk, while K-9 units meticulously combed the ground, their handlers navigating the difficult terrain of sand, tall grasses, and tidal pools. Initial interviews commenced immediately, an urgent attempt to piece together Piper's last moments. Her distraught parents recounted the afternoon's events, their words heavy with guilt and confusion. Park staff, including Miriam O'Neill, a Lighthouse docent who had been on duty that day, were questioned extensively. O'Neill, a seasoned employee familiar with the Lighthouse's rhythms, could offer no recollection of anything unusual, nor any specific memory of Piper beyond the general stream of visitors. Other tourists present at the lighthouse during the critical time frame were also interviewed, their accounts often vague, providing no definitive leads. Despite the overwhelming mobilization of resources and the tireless efforts of searchers, the immediate environment yielded no trace of the missing girl. No discarded shoe, no forgotten toy, no sign of struggle disturbed the pristine landscape. The vastness of the marsh, with its hidden channels and thick vegetation, proved an formidable obstacle, capable of concealing even a large search party, let alone a small child. As the initial hours bled into the first night, a profound sense of frustration settled over the investigation. The absence of any tangible clue, any direction to pursue, deepened the despair already gripping Piper's family, who watched helplessly as hope slowly began to recede into the unforgiving darkness. The initial fervor of the search at Bodie Island Lighthouse slowly dissipated. Days turned into weeks, then months, yet the vast coastal landscape offered no further clues to Piper Lang's whereabouts. Every potential lead, no matter how remote, was meticulously pursued and ultimately exhausted. The initial surge of media attention, which had brought national headlines to the Outer Banks, gradually receded, replaced by other news cycles. For the world outside, the story of the vanished 9-year-old faded into the background, becoming another tragic, unsolved mystery. But for the Lang family, time did not heal. It merely stretched the agony, transforming their initial panic into a persistent, dull ache. Each passing year brought another painful milestone. Birthday candles, once lit with joyful anticipation for Piper, now marked anniversaries of absence, their flickering flames a poignant reminder of a missing presence that never returned home. Holidays, school events, and family gatherings were all shadowed by the gaping void left by her disappearance. Her parents, living in a perpetual state of limbo, clung to a fragile hope that defied logic, even as the weight of 12 unanswered years pressed down upon them. They endured the well-meaning but often hollow condolences, the sympathetic glances, and the quiet questions that lingered in every conversation. Their lives became a testament to enduring grief, a silent vigil maintained against the relentless march of time, marked by the constant, agonizing uncertainty of their daughter's fate. For the investigators tasked with finding Piper, the case became a file that grew thicker with reports and interviews but yielded no answers. It was officially categorized as cold, a designation that brought a quiet frustration within the Dare County Sheriff's Office. Detectives periodically reviewed the evidence, hoping a fresh perspective or a new forensic technique might emerge, but the trail remained stubbornly barren. The unique circumstances of Piper's vanishing, no immediate witnesses to an abduction, no signs of struggle, no physical evidence beyond the initial lack thereof, made it particularly intractable. The Bodie Island Lighthouse, once a symbol of guidance and stability, now stood as a silent monument to a devastating enigma, its mystery deepening with every passing year, a constant, unresolved ache for all involved. The case lay dormant, never truly closed, awaiting an unforeseen catalyst to break its long silence. 12 years had passed since Piper Lang's disappearance, a period that had solidified her case as one of the Outer Banks' most enduring and heartbreaking mysteries. The Bodie Island Lighthouse continued to stand sentinel, its black and white spiral a constant against the changing seasons, a silent witness to countless visitors, but offering no new revelations about the vanished child. The wooden boardwalk, once the last known path Piper walked, had been repaired and maintained over the years, its planks replaced, its structure reinforced against the relentless coastal weather. It was during one such routine inspection on a blustery autumn afternoon that the long silence was abruptly shattered. Coastal Warden Tasha Kim, a meticulous observer of the delicate ecosystem she patrolled, was conducting a routine structural integrity check beneath the lighthouse's elevated catwalk. Her gaze, accustomed to scanning for storm damage or wildlife, settled on an anomaly tucked deep beneath a weathered support plank, partially obscured by accumulated debris and wind-blown sand. It was a child's sneaker, small and discolored, its fabric faded by years of exposure to salt air and sun. What struck Kim immediately was its unusual condition. It was not merely dusty, but packed solid with fine, wind-blown sand, as if it had been perfectly preserved within its own sandy mold. The discovery sent an immediate jolt through the quiet afternoon. Kim, trained in the protocols for unusual finds in sensitive areas, secured the scene and notified her superiors. The shoe, once gingerly retrieved, revealed a faded brand and a size consistent with a 9-year-old child. The meticulous forensic examination that followed quickly confirmed the profound and unsettling truth. A small, personalized marking on the inside sole, almost imperceptible, matched a detail provided by the Lang family over a decade prior. This was Piper Lang's sneaker. The confirmation ripped through the Lang family like a fresh wound, yet it carried with it a fragile, terrifying spark of hope. The artifact, found in such an improbable location after so long, instantly reignited the cold case. Authorities mobilized with a renewed sense of urgency, understanding the immense significance of this single, sand-caked shoe. It was not merely a tragic memento. It was a potential key, a fragile vessel of microscopic truths that could finally unlock the 12-year-old enigma of Piper Lang's vanishing. Every grain of sand, every fiber, every fleck of material adhering to its weathered surface held the promise of a long-awaited answer. The precise location and condition of the shoe demanded the most meticulous forensic examination, recognizing that its hidden details were paramount to understanding how it came to rest beneath the catwalk plank. The confirmation that the sand-caked sneaker belonged to Piper Lang shattered the 12-year silence surrounding her disappearance, instantly transforming a cold case into an active, high-priority investigation. The Dare County Sheriff's Office, alongside state and federal agencies, officially reopened Piper's file, now armed with a tangible piece of evidence that had eluded them for so long. The immediate focus shifted to the meticulous forensic analysis of the shoe itself. Experts from the state crime lab began a painstaking examination, understanding that every speck of dust, every fiber, and every microscopic impression on its weathered surface held potential clues. They carefully documented the type and origin of the sand packed within, seeking to determine if it matched the precise composition of the Bodie Island Lighthouse area or suggested another location. As the forensic team delved into the shoe's secrets, investigators returned to the Bodie Island Lighthouse with a renewed sense of purpose. The site, once a frustrating enigma, was now a potential crime scene, viewed through a different lens. Specialized search teams employed advanced ground-penetrating radar and thermal imaging technologies, meticulously scanning the boardwalk, the marsh overlook, and the surrounding terrain, focusing intensely on the area beneath the catwalk where the sneaker was found. They expanded their search perimeter, no longer merely looking for a missing child, but for any other discarded items, disturbed ground, or subtle anomalies that might have been overlooked during the initial, less informed search efforts. Every inch of the environment was reevaluated, every shadow re-examined, driven by the knowledge that Piper's shoe had been hidden in plain sight for over a decade. Concurrently, the investigative team began the arduous task of revisiting every aspect of the original case. Thousands of pages of witness statements and incident reports were pulled from storage, reread, and cross-referenced. Former park staff and visitors from the day of Piper's disappearance were sought out for renewed interviews. Lighthouse docent Miriam O'Neill, who had been on duty that fateful afternoon, was recontacted, her memory probed for any detail, however seemingly insignificant, that might now resonate differently in light of the sneaker's discovery. Investigators sought to understand if NY vehicles, individuals, or activities around the lighthouse that day had been dismissed too quickly, or if new information could be gleaned from old recollections. The hope was to find a forgotten detail, a fleeting observation, or a new connection that, combined with the forensic insights from the shoe, could finally illuminate the path Piper Lang took after she vanished. The meticulous forensic examination of Piper Lang's sand-caked sneaker continued for weeks, each microscopic detail scrutinized under high-powered magnification. The breakthrough arrived not from the wind-blown sand, which confirmed its origin near the lighthouse, but from an almost imperceptible anomaly on the shoe's rubber sole. Forensic experts identified several minuscule flecks, no larger than pinpricks, embedded deep within the tread pattern. These flecks possessed a distinct amber hue and a peculiar crystalline structure. Chemical analysis determined them to be a specific type of industrial-grade polyurethane varnish, a material not commonly found in natural environments or on typical footwear. Further investigation by the forensic team, aided by a national database of commercial coatings, yielded a critical match. The unique composition of the varnish flecks perfectly aligned with a protective sealant commonly applied to the steps and interior surfaces of commercial tour vans. This discovery provided the first tangible, external link to Piper Lang's disappearance, shifting the investigation from a search for a missing child to a potential abduction or unauthorized transport. The focus immediately narrowed to the various shuttle and tour operators that serviced the Bodie Island Lighthouse in 2006. Investigators embarked on the daunting task of cross-referencing every available shuttle manifest, booking record, and driver log from the week Piper vanished. This was a painstaking process, sifting through 12-year-old paper records and rudimentary digital files. The lead detective collaborated closely with Juan Pairds, the shuttle dispatcher for the largest local tour company, whose meticulous, albeit analog record-keeping proved invaluable. Pairds, initially bewildered by the renewed interest in such old data, eventually pinpointed an irregularity in the manifests for the day of Piper's disappearance. A specific driver, scheduled for a routine coastal loop, had swapped routes with a colleague at the last minute, a deviation that was poorly documented at the time. Further scrutiny of this driver's logs revealed a more significant breach of protocol. On the afternoon Piper Lang disappeared, this driver had taken an unauthorized drop-off loop at the Bodie Island Lighthouse, a shortcut not permitted by company policy, ostensibly to avoid traffic congestion on the main road. This unauthorized loop brought the van closer to the marsh overlook boardwalk than standard procedure allowed, placing it in direct proximity to where Piper was last seen. The microscopic varnish flecks on her sneaker, now matched to the specific sealant used on the steps of that tour company's vans, provided a chilling, undeniable link. After 12 years, the mechanism of Piper Lang's vanishing from the Bodie Island Lighthouse boardwalk finally began to emerge, pointing not to a random act, but to an unforeseen consequence of an unauthorized deviation. The microscopic varnish flecks, a silent testament on Piper Lang's sneaker, provided the final, devastating piece of the puzzle. They were the undeniable link to a specific tour van, and through the tireless efforts of investigators and the crucial, albeit analog, records maintained by shuttle dispatcher Juan Pairds, the truth of how Piper vanished from the Bodie Island Lighthouse boardwalk finally emerged. On that fateful afternoon in 2006, the driver identified through the swapped manifest had taken an unauthorized drop-off loop, a shortcut intended to save time and avoid traffic congestion on the main road. This deviation brought the tour van onto a seldom-used service path, placing it unexpectedly close to the marsh overlook, precisely where Piper was last seen. The presence of the van, an anomaly in that specific location at that specific time, created an unforeseen opportunity, a brief window of vulnerability that allowed Piper to disappear from the boardwalk. The varnish flecks, transferred from the van steps to her shoe, were the silent witnesses to her proximity to this vehicle, confirming that her path had intersected with this unauthorized route. The driver's actions, a seemingly innocuous deviation from protocol, had unknowingly set in motion a chain of events with catastrophic consequences. For 12 agonizing years, the Lang family had grappled with the terrifying unknown, haunted by the void left by their daughter. Now, the mechanism of her disappearance, while not revealing her ultimate fate, offered a profound, if painful, form of closure. They finally understood the sequence of events, the specific confluence of circumstances that had stolen their child from them. The arbitrary nature of the driver's unauthorized decision had, in effect, created the precise conditions for Piper Lang to vanish without a trace. The case of Piper Lang stands as a stark reminder of the enduring power of forensic science, where microscopic details, overlooked for over a decade, can hold the key to long-dormant mysteries. It underscores the relentless perseverance of investigators who refuse to let a cold case truly freeze, and the critical importance of meticulous record-keeping, even in seemingly mundane operations. While Piper herself remained unrecovered, the discovery of her sand-caked sneaker and the subsequent unraveling of the events surrounding her vanishing brought a measure of understanding to a family tormented by uncertainty. The Outer Banks, a place of beauty and tranquility, now carried the indelible mark of a child lost, her story a testament to the hidden truths that can lie dormant for years, waiting for a single, crucial clue to bring them to light.